Hey everybody, I am live. How's everyone doing out there? I have a very special guest spontaneously joining me. Wait till you meet this guy. You're gonna love him. There he is!
Hey Liz,
Hi Arshay, how you doing, honey?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to virtually see you again.
It's very nice to virtually see you again. It's been days since I last virtually saw you. I've missed you so much. Thank you for joining us today. Everybody, this is my dear friend Arshay Cooper. Arshay Cooper is, oh, where do we begin with who Arshay Cooper is? The best, I think, is maybe the short summation of who he is. He's somebody who I want you all to know about. He's somebody whose work I want you to know about. Arshay is an author. He is the subject of a new film and a new book that he wrote that is called A Most Beautiful Thing. It's his story of being on the first all-Black boys rowing team in Chicago in the 1980s, I was going to say, or is it 90s?
Yeah.
90s, okay. And it's a story of resilience and teamsmanship and love and sports and the redemptive power of believing in yourself and in your fellows. Arshay has gone on to become a coach, a spokesman for rowing, an inspirational speaker, somebody who has touched and changed more kids' lives than almost anybody that you're ever going to meet. I could go on, but I kind of feel like I just want you to tell everybody who you are. Also, can you hold up a copy of your book for everybody who is just joining us? Okay. A Most Beautiful Thing, Arshay Cooper, that's his team on the cover. This story is so inspiring, so beautiful. I want everybody to read it. And right now, I want you, my beloved Arshay, to tell everybody about your history and about your story and where you came from, where you went to, and where you are now.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Liz. Thanks for having me again. I just always great to see your face and hear your words and just be a part of whatever you're doing. So thank you for that. Again, my name is Arshay Cooper. Grew up in the Chicago West Side, the best side of Chicago, I believe. And I grew up in the 90s going to a school that at the time was considered the second most violent high school in Chicago. And, it was a neighborhood that really lacked a lot of opportunities, was neglected. For fun, we would just kind of hang out on a corner. People would drag a mattress out of their house and just jump on the mattress because there wasn't a lot of parks, a lot of playgrounds to just hang out. And so that's how it was for me growing up. And so everyone from my neighborhood went to this school, Manley Career Academy, which was all Black at the time. And, the school graduated less than 50% of its senior class every year. And you knew these numbers as a young person, and but we didn't know quite what it meant. We didn't know the resources we were lacking, and while I was in high school, my mother just finished her recovery. She had been through a lot of trauma in her life, was a drug addict and dealt with a grandmother who I love dearly, who's still alive, who's seen a lot in the South, and seen one of her best friends hung on a tree and caused a lot of trauma in her life, and my grandmother's mother wasn't allowed to learn how to read, and so there was a lot of generational trauma that passed down to my family and my life, and I didn't quite know why we were poor growing up. But really wanted to search for the answers and just couldn't quite learn how. And on my way to school every day, it was every different block was different, a different game. And to get to school safely, you just have to just get on the bus and sit in the back of the bus and hope that you get there, and that you're protected by your friends. You hope that your friends go to school so you can be protected. And that was every day for us. And I remember one day walking in the lunchroom, and I see this white boat in the lunchroom, and it was beautiful. It was amazing. And this lady came in because she saw me staring. She said, "Hey, would you like to be a part of the crew team?" And I'm like, "Crew? What's that?" You know, you're taught in Chicago, if someone asks you to join a crew, turn away and run as fast as you can.
Right. Crew does not mean the same thing in the west side of Chicago.
It does not mean the same thing. Yeah. Two different things. And so, you know, I walked up to this boat, and behind this boat was a TV monitor, and they were showing the Olympic Games, and I didn't see anyone that looked like me. So I was like, "Oh no, I'm not doing this." And I walked over to my friend Preston, and I said, "Can you believe they're trying to get us to row in the shell? We don't even swim. Like, that's not even cool, you know?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, that's how, you know, white people sports get you killed. You know, when you think about white people sports, you think, number one, that, you know, it's too expensive to be a part of, or you think about a horse or climbing a mountain or being in the ocean." So we were like, "Nah, we don't want no part of that." And
so didn't he literally think it was truly a conspiracy to get you drowned?
Yes. So he said, so Preston was quite of a conspiracy theorist. So he was like, he was like, "You know, this is how the white people are going to kill us." And I was like, "No, man, I think we just shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't just swim." He was like, think about it. The boat is white." I was like, "Come on, dude, stop." And so the next day, the boat was there, and people were in line to sign up. And I seen a sign that says "free pizzas if you sign up." I sit next to Preston. He stares at me. He said, "I think we should join." And I'm like, nah, I don't want anything to do with that. And you know, we made a deal, and I went upstairs to the gym room to check it out. And this guy, Ken, gave this amazing speech about the power of rowing and the lessons that rowing would give you if you decide to take a chance, you know. And I knew I needed brotherhood. I knew I wanted to learn how to swim. I knew I wanted to travel as a high school student because I haven't been anywhere, you know. And I decided to give this foreign sport a chance. I sat on this erg machine, and I just started pulling so hard.
So that's a rowing. For people who don't know rowing, an erg is a rowing machine.
Yes. Yeah, you might see it at the gym. You just sit there and you pull, and I was pulling, and you know, technique was bad. I just knew I needed to pull something, and it was awesome. And a month later, I passed the swim test, and we get on the water, and that's when this spiritual moment began for me and my teammates who didn't like each other at first, who were from different neighborhoods and different gangs, and we shared the boathouse with 3 private schools, kids who live downtown, who live in suburban areas, who grew up very differently than us. And every day we showed up because we knew that this sport would do something for us that we have never experienced, just to be downtown. You know, sometimes in the sport of rowing, because it's such a elitist sport and wealthy sport, the only thing you have to worry about is getting on the water and pulling hard and winning gold. So you are measured by the gold medal that you win.
Right.
And a lot of coaches don't understand. For us, number one, just overcoming the fear of water was a win, you know, and just to make it to the boathouse, right, and away from the neighborhood was a win. And to get in a boat together and get along was a big win.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, folks don't understand that. And so in order for us to get to where we are, to win those medals, we had to go through a bunch of small wins that was tough for us to get there. And we were able to accomplish that.
And I would add, Arshay, that being alive at the age of 16 was a win for you and for all the kids in the boat. One of the most moving parts of the book, and for those of you who are just joining us, I'm going to keep repeating your name because people drop in and out of these conversations, but I'm talking to Arshay Cooper, and he's the author of an incredible, inspiring book that's called A Most Beautiful Thing. I don't have a copy of it because I only read it on my Kindle last week. Do you mind holding it up and showing everybody the title? it's the story of his experience on the first all-black high school boys rowing team in the world, in America, and how it transformed him. And he's also the subject of a beautiful new documentary with the same title that's about Arshay and all of the guys from that team reuniting 20 years later to reminisce about this experience in their lives and how it changed them. It's just such an incredible story. But one of the things that was so moving to me and devastating about your book was when, and it's also in the film, when you go around and you ask each one of the guys how old they were the first time they saw somebody be killed. And the ages are 9, 10, 11 years old. And that's the first time, it's not the only time. You wrote about how every single one of your friends lived their life literally stepping over pools of blood, stepping over dead bodies. This is to get to school. If you want to get to school, this is what you have to do. This is the gauntlet that you have to walk to get there. The miracle of your survival, and I think about what that teacher said to you in the hallway that day of, basically condemning you to an early death. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, my 8th grade year, I missed close to 60 days of school. And that's mostly because, my mom went into recovery and my grandmother was working 2 jobs, and I didn't have to go to school, because when she was gone, I didn't want to be there because I didn't have new clothes. I was bullied, and I felt like, there wasn't a lot of hope that was given there every day, and so at one point I missed around 25 consecutive days, and I remember walking in the hallway and, just sad, and
Right.
my history teacher is standing there. He had his arms folded, and I'm trying to walk into the classroom, and he said, "You're going to die before you're 18, if that."
Wow.
Because I missed those days. And the first thought is like, a teacher is always right,
Right.
and so I believe that. And at the same time, I was like, it can't be me. It can't be me. I feel like I'm doing I try to do good. Like, how can I get an A on my report card, right? How can I learn about who discovered America really when there's no food on the table?
Right.
How am I going to learn what's 20% of half if I think my brother is going to die out there in the street?
Right.
And so I remember that, that day I just gotten so upset, and I went into depression mode. So my 8th grade year was like my greatest depression. And so every day, I knew it wasn't just me. Like I said, you turn on the TV and you look at the news and you hear these stories of the American dream and who God is. And I said, well, God exists everywhere but here.
Right.
And
Right.
how can I believe in American dream when you're skipping over pools of blood, when you can't just go to the playground, where there's no basketball courts, right? And there's no food on my table, and still quite just don't know why. And I think when I joined the rowing team, the coaches were so amazing, right? The first thing they did was make sure it was a diverse pool of coaches who were black, who were female, and they were kind of undoing everything that was done to me as a kid that I learned that really kind of broke my spirit. And that was the focus of the team, is to make sure that we understand that we are amazing, that we are great, that we are resilient, that we are smart, and that we are powerful. And we had to demonstrate that every day by pulling on that erg, right? And pulling that oar in the boat, because every day we got faster. Every day we visited a new restaurant. Every other weekend we was out of town. And so every time you eliminate a dream, your dreams get bigger. And so that was an amazing part of our story back in my sophomore year in high school.
There was something to me that was really eye-opening. I mean, your book is you're such a beautiful writer, and you're so expert at conveying a world. I don't think I'd had any sense before of how confining a neighborhood like that is, right? I was aware of the danger of it, but I don't think I'd ever realized how small your world becomes. And so for you, just this appeal of joining a team, the number one appeal for you was that they said you're going to travel. And by travel, it meant like leave the neighborhood. It doesn't even necessarily mean like going to Europe. It's like you're going to go like 10 blocks outside of where you've ever been before. You know, that reminded me of a friend of mine who used to be a teacher in Chicago. And I think it might have even been in West Chicago. And she said she was so astonished when she met her students that most of them had never seen the lake. They didn't know there was one. You know, they're growing up in a city that's on one of the largest lakes in the entire world. The city sits right on the lake. But they were like, what lake? Like, you know, and they're 2 miles away from it. You know, so when I think about the absence of opportunity and equality in these neighborhoods, it's at every single level. It's even an absence of equality in your ability to move freely from one place to another. It was devastating for me to see that, and I was so grateful that you expressed it so eloquently, so beautifully.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You know, and two, it's, you know, I always, you know, I didn't know too much of my mom's history until I started writing, right?
Uh-huh.
I knew it was painful for her growing up, so I never wanted to ask, you know, give me a little bit of your history. And I started talking to my grandmother who picked cotton, and she told the story of, you know, when they migrated from the South, that everyone was just confined and put into this one community and lived in projects like on top of each other.
Right.
And it was very hard. And all the jobs that were there when these folks migrated from the South, they couldn't get those jobs because
Right.
of their skin. They couldn't get the loans. They couldn't move to the suburbs, even if they worked 3 jobs and tried, because they was denied loans. So it was hard. The system was rigged from the beginning, you know,
Yeah.
and that was just tough to learn, you know, and so, you know, the hope, you know, I always say the hope you give, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, that's why the hope that I give is just like so important. And I was completely honest in this book about every single thing, because there's still young people that's living in those conditions who grew up just
Right.
like I did, but they want to know how to make it out.
Right.
How do I live here and survive? And so I had to put everything and empty myself out into those pages to give them the roadmap that my team took to get out of it.
And what a roadmap it is.
it.
You know, one of the things that I want to talk about that's in the movie, and again, for those of you who are just joining me, I'm talking to Arshay Cooper. He's the author of an incredible book called A Most Beautiful Thing, which is about his experience being on the first all-black boys rowing team in a Chicago high school in the 1990s, and what those lessons taught him in the world and who he became because of it. And not just who you became, but who every single guy in that boat became. You point out that every single one of your teammates became an entrepreneur just through the you know, the hope that was given to them, and the broadening of the world that was given to them by this simple act of putting them in a boat and letting them become a team. So in the documentary film, which is, everyone should watch this, it's so beautiful. It just came out. It's called A Most Beautiful Thing. You do something very startling in the middle of this film. and it's like, it is. And it was a pretty startling thing for you to do when you were filming this in 2019. It's an even more startling and astonishing thing for us to witness and watch right now at this moment in history in 2020. You make this decision and you go to your guys and you're like, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's invite 4 white Chicago cops to join our team. And at that moment, when you did that in the film, I was like, what's he doing? You know, like there's this sense that I had, like, wait, what? And all of the guys on the team reacted the same way. And you said, no, this is, you know, an inspiration that I have. It's something that I want to do. And it turns into such an incredibly moving part of the film to see, like, the first time they walk into the room when you guys are training, the amount of tension that I felt on both sides, you know, because you're from the neighborhood that they police, and all of you have had really horrific experiences with the police, and they don't trust you and you don't trust them. And, you know, there's Arshay, you know, this is like the thing about you that's so astonishing. You just walk forward, shake their hands. You're like, come on in, guys, you know, join the team. You know, we're doing this now. And I want to talk to you about, you know, why you made that decision to bring them on, and where they are now. and what your relationship has been ongoingly with them, and where the context of that is in this moment of history. So if you could walk us through that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, through the process of filming, everyone was talking about the disconnect of between the different gangs in Chicago. And one of the things that happens in Chicago when a gang is beefing or in war, once they squash that war, they will play a softball game and have a picnic and have a conversation. And
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
wow.
learned
Okay.
a lot of these things in Chicago. And I remember saying, well, I just don't think the biggest disconnect is just the different gangs in Chicago, but it's the police department and the Black community.
Right.
I think it takes a village to raise a child, right? And everyone in that village is somehow part of raising that child.
Right.
Even those who work there instead of the police, except the police department. And how could I live in a neighborhood for 18 years and never had a good conversation or a conversation with someone who policed these neighborhoods?
Right.
And I believe in education, right? And I believe in conversation and conversation through education through conversation. And I wanted them to see who we are. I wanted them to know our names. I wanted them to know this is our community. Right. And it was very important for me. Now, if you saw the film, in the film, you seen these Black men build a brotherhood. You seen these Black men learn how to swim. You seen these Black men who hated each other at first overcome fear and learn to love each other. You seen these Black men take their young Black kids and teach them how to row. You've seen these Black men who talked about their business and how they offer opportunities for those in their neighborhoods who don't have jobs, who maybe have a felony, to be a part of their company. Right. You've seen Black men who created an environment for those to be safe. That's not what Chicago Police Department see. They only interact is when they're pulling you over or someone's calling them on another person who looks like them. That is it. So I knew I had to walk them through every step of our lives and who we are. And that wasn't going to happen if I mail a book to the police department. That wasn't going to happen if I hold up a sign in front of the police department. That wasn't going to happen if I say, hey, let me go in there and speak to your guys, And so I know that sports unites people, and I want to bring them back to the same water that changed our lives, that changed our perspectives, that helped us become men. And so when I invited them out, they came, and there was a lot of tension at first, and I wanted to break that ice through having a simple competition on the erg machine, and we all laughed about it. And I remember putting my guy, a cop, one of my guys, a cop, one of my guys, a cop.
I saw that on the boat. I was like, you really staggered it. Yeah.
And I said, to move anywhere on the boat, you have to move together. To move anywhere in this world, you have to move together. And we had a conversation after, and I challenged them, right, to take kids to the boathouse that is free. And Mary didn't show it because she wanted to make the scene with the fathers and the sons, teaching them how to row about them. But I invited the cops to watch that, and they brought their kids to watch it. I wanted them to see how we interact with young Black men and our kids, and how open, how amazing they feel when you tell them to sit tall and tell them how great they are. And they got out, and everyone laughed and had this just like amazing time together. I wanted them to see that. And when I asked them to race, I wanted them to go to the boathouse and see some of these young Black kids who show up every day, take 2 buses, right? And 2 big backpacks, one with their clothes and one with their books. And they show up every single day. And I wanted the cops to see our lives. I wanted them to understand who Preston is, who Malcolm is, who Alvin is. And I wanted them to see that my experience, that I've never been suspended from school. I have never committed a crime, but still been harassed by police, still had my face pressed down on police cars, still had cops stick their hands
multiple
down my
times,
pants.
you said.
Multiple times.
Starting when you were a child, essentially.
Started when I was a child. And that caused a lot of trauma in my life, right? Like I am, I am legit as possible. And when the cops behind me, I'm still terrified, And so it was very important for me that they walk a mile in our shoes.
Mm.
And what Preston said, that, you know, I remember journalist asked Preston, what did you think about Arshay inviting the cops out to row with you guys? And Preston said that we wanted them to not judge us, right? That's all he said, to not judge us and to know us, right? And so when you pull someone else over, know that they have a story. You know, their grandmothers went through segregation, that there is systemic violence and poverty in the communities they live in, and they don't get that education through their boss. We had to educate them, and that was the goal, and that was the purpose. And so now, when that's the killing of George Floyd, you know, that crushed me and that brought back that trauma to the point that I wanted to punch a wall. So when you see people are angry, it's that trauma that they went through as a kid of being harassed and being mistreated that all of a sudden suddenly comes out. But to get a call from them and to text back and forth with them, and they said, this is so wrong, and to say, hey, you have to hold your guys accountable. You have to hold your coworkers accountable. You know who we are. We're great people, and you have to see our face when you see their face. And so that's the conversation we had, and we talked about having conversations together and panels together, and I challenged them to step up again, and that's what it was all about, really, just open them up to have a conversation with us, to get to know us, and to walk them out in our shoes and know our history and give them history that they have never gotten.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary, Arshay. It's such a moving part of the film, but what strikes me is the ongoing contact that you and all the guys have with those 4 police officers. And when I think about, that's just 4 police officers, right? But when I think about, since you made that film, since they came to know you, since they have you on speed dial, since they consider you friends, and you know, this mind-opening experience has happened for them, how many Black men have they encountered since then? You know, how many Black men do they encounter a day? What tragedies may have been averted already, you know, simply by them coming to know you? You know, you don't know the impact that you may have had. And I hear you, and I want to put an exclamation mark on it, that because you said this when we spoke last time too, that you know, the ongoing problem is that the police are not holding the police accountable.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And that's it. Like, your friends can privately text you and say, hey, look, this was fucked up. What, you know, like, we don't agree with this. This is so awful. But until they use their voices within the police department to make change from within, change is not going to be coming. And the ongoing problem is, as I read an activist say, who do the police ultimately protect? The police.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's so important. Like, you know, the moment I spent 2 years working and living in a recovery home, like drug addicts and gang members, the same place that my mom went into, and I was like, I want to, at some point in my life, I'm going to dedicate myself to work at that place, and my lives and my teammate lives is to solve problems in our neighborhoods, right? And I seen a young person who was upset and wanted to hurt someone who looked just like him, right? And Charlemagne said one thing that was so important. He said that if you don't deal with the trauma and pain of a young Black man as a kid, he would grow up to redistribute that pain to folks who look just like him. And so there's a need for mentors and counselors, and that's what we do. And we hold each other accountable, and we put resources out there to bring change and hope, right? And that's how we're solving the problems in our communities. And for the cops, it has to be the same way. You have to say enough is enough as a human, right? And hold each other accountable, and understand that Black lives matter, right? And they are set in a system, in a position where there is no interaction, and they can't see that, right? And their leaders are not showing them that. And so I have to show them. I have to reach out, regardless of who disagrees, right? I truly believe that number one, those four guys will always think of our stories and think about our kids that they met. And so the second round is that I have to push them to hold each other accountable. And I believe it will happen, because I'm never going to stop texting them. I'm never going to, get out of their face. Like, I'm always going to invite them to the water. I'm always going to invite them to different events. And I'm going to push the envelope. I'm going to keep pushing it. And so I think the last thing I'll say about this is that the most powerful moment, I knew that we had to teach them how to row. Because once we're in a position to teach them, they will open their ears, they will open their hearts, and they know they can learn from us. And since then, they had a sense of opening. They were open about every single thing that came out of our mouths, about our lives, our families, our situation. And they're always listening. And they're always, just respectful, and they understand that we are the teachers because we started off as the teacher. And it's not the other way around. Right. Yeah.
Arshay, you're such a great teacher. You're such a great teacher, and you're such a great leader. And I was a competitive rower in high school myself, and you and I met because I'm also involved. One of my favorite programs, foundations in the entire world, is an organization called Row New York, that takes kids from underserved neighborhoods and teaches them how to row and puts them on the water the same way that you were put on the water when you were a kid. And I'll put the information about that in the subject heading of this when I post this, because I've always been an advocate for that organization because of the incredible transformation that it brings in these kids' lives. And just for my last question before we go, and also for anybody who's joining us one more time, this is Arshay Cooper. He's the author of A Most Beautiful Thing, just an extraordinary book. Get it, read it. It's inspiring. It's beautiful. It's devastating. It's powerful. He's a great teacher. He's a great man. I know, because I grew up rowing. There's something very special about rowing as a sport. And I wondered if you could just express what you think it is before we go, because so much of your work is about bringing people together. I can't count how many times in your memoir you use the word together. Mm-hmm. And you always say, like, there's no way we can move forward unless we move forward together. And so I was wondering if you could just speak from your love of this particular sport, what it means to you, as a human being, and why you were so attracted to it from the beginning, and why you still coach and teach today. And also, if there's anything you want to direct people to in terms of stuff you want them to know about, projects you want them to know about, activism you want them to be doing, give us instructions. You're a great teacher.
Thank you. Yeah, in the 90s, it was all about the Bulls and Michael Jordan. Everyone carried a basketball to school every day. I mean, everybody had a basketball. No matter how tall, short, gender, religion, everyone was all about basketball and football. And I tried out for basketball because I wanted to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to be Magic Johnson. And, we talked about my teacher, and playing basketball, I wasn't that good. And so it's a lot of conflict and movement and trash talk in basketball. And I would hear things like, you suck, you garbage, you ain't good, you're never going to be good. And triggered a lot of trauma for me playing that sport. It didn't make me feel good. Mm-hmm. So I tried out for football, and the coach was like, knock him down, kill him, hurt him. And I was like, no, I don't want to hurt anybody.
You're like, already, by the way, that's my neighborhood.
I don't want to hurt anybody.
This is literally my whole life.
Yes, and somebody's trying to hurt me. I was like, I experience that every day. I don't need to go to a sport and do it, And so when I went out to the water for the first time, and, the second time we were pushed out, and we were scared. And we were all tough guys because we had to be tough, And I remember that fear came upon everyone. And we knew at that moment, to get back to the dock safely, we had to pull for each other, and we had to follow each other. And then we had to listen to get there safely. And so here's the sound of the coach and the sound of the coxswain, who's telling us to sit tall, to breathe, to say, you got this, that you're powerful, and you must move forward. And every stroke, you're going to be strong, and you're great, and you're amazing. And we're pulling. And there's the downtown view. For most of us, the first time, seeing the downtown view so close. And the sound of the blade hitting the water, and that magical movement. And finally, no noise, no gunshots, no police sirens, no broken street glass, no bullying. We're only downloading serenity. We needed to download. And it became meditative. And I remember, like, this is the first thing I've done between 4 and 6 o'clock, the craziest time of the day when everyone's outside, or when people being jumped into gangs, or when people playing sports, or there's people jumping rope and it's loud. The first time that I felt like just whole, like I had the whole pie. And it was healing. It was chicken soup for the soul. And it was just beautiful. And I knew I needed to do this every day for my mental health. And, you know, whenever there's a mass shooting, right away, people will send in trauma counselors, right, to help you. And I met people who, you know, who are kids whose parents get a divorce and they need to see someone, right? And we never had that in our school. But to be able to be in the water and express ourselves quietly and release all the pain and negative energy in our life on that water was beautiful. And that's why we showed up every day. And then to get off the water and stretch and talk about that experience and have a safe space to share and to release was great meditation. Some people only meditate a half hour a day, and it's so powerful, but to meditate 2 hours a day was beautiful. And so that's why we showed up every day. And that's what the water did for my life. It was being in the shower. It was being near the ocean. It was being locked in a rainstorm all at once. And it helped me. And it helped our team to understand that you can't do the work of 8 people, but you have to find 8 people to do the work, and you get there much faster. So we knew we had to always connect with people. We knew we had to bring people into our vision to move forward. And we had a troubled past. We had troubled times, but like I said in the book, in rowing, you move forward by looking in the opposite direction. And I learned it's okay to look back as long as you keep moving forward. And that was, and that's our story, and I'm sticking with it. It's the best sport in the world. And there's so many lessons to use in the sports to take in your everyday living. And so now what I'm doing is, there's so much happening. This film is releasing on the 31st. If it don't release in theaters, it will come out live streaming. So stay tuned on my Instagram for that news. We are now talking with members of Congress around mental health, and for our communities and in our schools and in our neighborhoods. We started a Most Beautiful Thing Fund that supports my work, right? And so we teamed up with the Pocock Foundation, and there's boathouses everywhere, but they need some more support. They need more coaches, more academic support, more social workers. So that fund will go towards that. That fund will help them compete. We give them nice equipment for different boathouses throughout the country. And I would spend a year traveling to those places, coaching coaches, speaking to their communities and to their kids and recruiting them. And we are super excited, and, you know, to just team up with the world with this mission and give access to young people. And I thank you, Liz, for being a part of this, not only this great sport, but this movement and this mission to give more young people access. And last thing I would say is that I believe that every boathouse in the country that is that really love this sport, I believe that it should reflect the diversity in this city. And I believe that our Olympic team should reflect the diversity in this country. And that's what I'm all about. So my mission is in LA 2028. And I have a heart for everyone, but especially young Black men. There has never been a Black man who rode on American soil in the Olympics. In 2028 in LA, we will fulfill that mission. And that's what I'm doing every day. And that boat will be diverse. And we're going to create more stories like Tiger and Serena and Jesse Owens and many others have. And so I'm happy. And thank you guys for listening. And hopefully you join me in this journey and check out Row New York. check out A Most Beautiful Thing Fun, and check out the film. And I guarantee you that great things will happen. Thank you.
Arshay, I love you. You're awesome. I love that you said, when I was like, so what are you up to now? Your simple aspiration is, I'm going to team up with the whole world. If you want to know who Arshay Cooper is, he's that guy. He's like, yeah, next, I'm going to team up with the entire world. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it for a minute. I'll always follow you. I'll always listen to whatever you're up to. I'll always want to be part of whatever you're up to. And I couldn't resist taking time out of today to introduce you to my people and to have my people be introduced to you. And one more time, hold up that book. Everybody, it's just come out in paperback. It's called A Most Beautiful Thing, the story of the first all-Black high school rowing team in America. And Arshay Cooper, you're a national treasure and you're a dear friend. And thank you for taking time out of your day to tell us your story, to tell us and to share with us your vision. And I would say to challenge all of us to expand our notion of, who's on our team, and for reminding us that we can only move forward together. So God bless you. Love you so much.
Thank you.
We'll catch up more later.
Thank you. I would say eat, pray, love, and row. There we go.
Exactly. Thanks, Arshay.
All right, talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.